The Culture Pop Podcast is brought to you by the law offices of Jacob Emrani.
Accident or injury, call Jacob Emrani. Call Jacob.
Hey, it's Mase. If you or a friend or loved one is injured in an accident, the first person you should call is my friend Jacob. When I did this, Jacob was great. He helped me by talking through the next steps, which really put my mind at ease. When you're injured in an accident, you got to have an expert. That's why you call Jacob, just like I did. Call Jacob, 844-24-JACOB. That's 844-24-JACOB, or visit calljacob.com.
Call Jacob.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Culture Pop Podcast. I'm Steve Mason along with Sue Kalinsky. Sue, it is Wednesday, October the 25th at 10 o'clock in the morning as we record this. And I can tell you, I think I look terrible first thing in the morning. If you're watching on YouTube, don't I look terrible first thing in the morning? Look, this, and then this, and then see what I'm talking about?
Now, does that change during the day?
Yeah, it does.
Does all that go away?
It gets better during the day. I'm a little bit more awake, and I don't look like I'm still half asleep as I do right now.
I'm just shiny. I need a makeup person.
Look at this.
I need to be powdered.
Seriously, look at this forehead. Are you serious? That's as shiny as it gets. So we got a really cool guest today, George Schlatter, who is the creator of Laugh-In and did so many amazing projects over the course of his career. He's written a brand new book called Still Laughing, A Life in Comedy, and we will get to that. So I just came across, we do these hypothetical questions every day on Mason and Ireland, and I just found the one that I'm going to use today, and I wanted to bounce it off of you. So what do you want to be different about yourself and your life in 5 years? In 5 years, what do you want to be different?
Do I want to be younger?
Sure. Yeah.
No, I don't want to be young. I mean, I'm happy.
It's not an option.
Yeah, I know it's not an option. It's just, what do I want?
Yeah, right.
I want to be traveling more.
Good.
I'd like to see the Mets win another World Series.
Well, good luck with that. Wishing you all the best. If it happens in your lifetime, it will be a miracle.
Yeah, that's true. What
about career-wise?
Career-wise. I'd love to sell a show.
Yeah, there you go.
Get a show on the air.
Yeah.
I'd like to have more dogs in my life.
Yeah? You thinking about getting another dog?
Well, not while Tucker's still around.
Oh, right.
Tucker. Well, he can't.
Tucker,
He can't. He's hard of hering. He doesn't know I'm talking about him.
Yeah, Sophie never knows what I'm saying.
And what else? Money. Money's always a thing.
Sure.
More money.
Yeah. It's never a bad answer. So for me, 5 years from now, I want to be in my third act. Now, I have no idea what the third act is going to be, but I want there to be one more really big thing, project, show, whatever that is. One more big thing, a book, I've been working on this young adult fiction novel about baseball that I would love to finish, but like one big thing, because what I don't like is this. I don't like that it feels like I'm a little bit plateaued. Not that there's anything wrong. I mean, I got a great gig and all that stuff, and I get to work with you all the time. But just one last big thing is what I would like.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, and by the way, the Olympics will be in 5 years. So that's something to look forward to also. Were you here? You were not here in 1984.
Yes, I was.
You were in LA in 1984 during the Olympics?
Mm-hmm.
So what was it like in the city at that point?
Oh, it was electric. I mean, it was exciting. And, I had an apartment with a girlfriend of mine. We had a duplex apartment in West Hollywood, and it was beautiful and had a little backyard. And for a moment, we thought of leaving and renting out our place to make some cash.
Sure.
During the Olympics, but we didn't do it. I ended up not going to any of the events. But,
you didn't go to any of the events?
No.
Yeah. My strong recommendation to anybody is try to get to at least one event in 5 years. Again, planning 5 years ahead. Put this on your calendar, on your little iCal thing, 5 years, Olympics. The other thing is, if you can volunteer, it is a super cool experience to volunteer at the Olympics and help people get around where they're trying to go and give directions and all that stuff. Because the world will really be here in LA, and it'll be a really cool event to be at and to be a part of. So yeah, 5 years from now, definitely be doing the Olympics. But there's going to be another big, like a big, gigantic a peak for me in the next 5. I have no idea what it is.
All right.
But it's going to happen.
Well, you got to manifest.
Exactly. I'm manifesting away. All right. So I found this list in Rolling Stone. And so I come from a top 40 radio background, Sue. And the beauty of top 40 back in the day, it's not as much now as it was, for example, when I was working in the business in music radio in the early 90s, the late 80s, where you would play records on top 40 and they wouldn't seem to go together. Like I remember very clearly playing Kenny Rogers and Dolly Parton, Islands in the Stream, into Jump by Van Halen. To me, that was the beauty of the format, is there was something of everything in that format. So I consider that to be, those are pop records. Now you were looking at this list and you don't necessarily see, it's the definition of pop is tricky, right? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I look at pop and I think, mostly like Michael Jackson or, TLC and songs like that. But there's a lot of rock and roll here.
There's a lot of rock and roll. Well, in fact, I've got a list of the top 10 here, and we've got musical accompaniment. As this is a surprise for you, right? That we've got musical accompaniment. So here is number 10. I want to hold your hand. That's the musical accompaniment. What do you think?
I wasn't expecting that, but
you thought I was going to play a clip.
I thought maybe you were going to play a little something, but no. Thank you for that.
Yeah. See, so the Beatles were a poppy band. They had pop records. This was a pop record, no question, for the Beatles. Now, I did this with Ireland. He says, what about Hey Jude? Hey Jude is a pop record. It was a really big hit. But when I think of pop, I think of that sort of happy, infectious sound that you get from I Want to Hold Your Hand. Now, were you a big Beatles fan?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that's their poppiest of their records.
Yeah, I mean, one of my favorite Beatles songs was "In My Life."
Yeah, it's a great record.
It's such a. I mean, it's a short song.
Yeah,
but it's such a potent song, and so many songs growing up to me, I resonate with because it was either like dealing with a breakup,
right?
You know what I mean? So much of that time in my life. So, Your Song is another one that I just loved. Imagine,
Imagine, right? I mean, these are really sort of powerful. I think they transcend music in a lot of ways. The records that you're talking, like Imagine means more than just a pop record. It wasn't just number 7 on the Hot 100. That was a really powerful song. All right. So you ready for more musical?
More singing?
Yeah. Okay. Here is number 9. California Love. Boom, 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 dun, dun, dun. Pretty good.
What's that?
That's Tupac and Dr. Dre, California Love.
You have that as number 9?
Yeah, I have that as number 9 on the Rolling Stone top 500 pop songs of all time.
Okay, maybe
you must be working from a different list.
I'm the top 100.
You're the top 100. Okay.
The number 9 here is "I Want You Back" by the Jackson 5.
That's a great one. Yeah, that's a really good record. So there's a little Motown on there. So Tupac, Dr. Dre, California Love is there. Famously, Ken Lee Jansen's Playing Song.
Ah, there you go.
It worked most of the time.
That's right.
Most of the time.
Right, until it played him out of Dodger Stadium.
Yeah. Now, this is by definition as poppy as a record can get. Dun, 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 dun. So call me maybe. Dun, 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 dun. Do you know that one?
Is that Britney Spears?
No, Carly Rae Jepsen, Call Me Maybe.
Oh,
You
yeah.
don't know that, right? You don't know that song?
Yeah, I do. I do.
You'd know it if you heard it.
Yeah.
Okay. Billie Jean, Michael Jackson's, I think, greatest song is Billie Jean. And that is number 7 on the list. Billie Jean and Beat It, I think, and that was off the same album, off of Thriller. I think those are probably the 2 greatest Michael Jackson singles. Can you think of any other? No.
My time is up.
Your time is up. Yes. All right. So this is a good one. Number 6. Like a little prayer. What do you think?
That's the only words you know.
Yeah, all I got was like a little prayer and da 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 da. So I'll tell you a great story about this record. I've never told the full story on the air. So back in the day, this record would have come out in 89 or 90. So I had a friend in the waste management business or whatever business that was, right? Who got an advance copy of Madonna's Like a Prayer. Now, it was going to be a gigantic single. In fact, the video was premiering on NBC after the Cosby Show at 8:30 on a Thursday night. So the Friday before this big premiere, my friend, let's call him Vinny, my friend Vinny slips me a copy of Madonna Like a Prayer. And so I did what any self-respecting program director would do. I put it on the air immediately. And I played it once an hour, all weekend long. I played Madonna's Like a Prayer. And so that nobody else could steal, our station was called 93Q, so nobody else could steal it, because in the middle of the verses, we would put a whisper that said 93Q. So
it's like a vocal watermark.
Exactly. So we knew if somebody was going to steal it or not. So I ended up getting sued, or at least getting a cease and desist from Madonna. But as far as my listeners knew,
from Madonna personally,
we got sued by Madonna. How great is that?
That is great. What a rite of passage.
All right. Number 5. Since you've been gone, I can't breathe for the first time. Do you know it? You have a different list than me. This is so funny. So do you know that song? The one I just sang?
Sing a little more.
Since you've been gone, I can't breathe for the first time. Da, da, da,
I don't know. I'd be horrible on a game show.
Yeah. There is a Name That Something tune on right now. I can't do it in 20 words. Exactly. Kelly Clarkson, Since You've Been Gone.
Oh, yeah. No.
Which is a super popular.
I know the song,
record.
but
okay.
Not when you sing it. I don't know it.
Okay, here's number 4. I Want It That Way.
Okay.
You know that one?
Yeah, that's number 10 on my list.
Okay. Yeah, we're matching lists now. So that's number 10, Backstreet Boys, I Want It That Way. By the way, Backstreet Boys are going out on tour again with NSYNC and 98 Degrees for like an all boy band night at the concert. I think that's a really fun night.
It's like the seniors tour.
It is. So supposedly Justin Timberlake is going back to, what was he? Was he 98 Degrees or was
No, he was. That was Nick Lachey.
Nick Lachey. Yeah. What was he was Backstreet Boys?
No, he wasn't
Backstreet. NSYNC. Yeah, NSYNC. All right, here is number 3. My girl, talking about
my girl. My girl.
Now you know who that is, right?
Yes.
The Temps.
What? Yeah, the Temptations.
As my dad would call them, the Temps. He liked the Temps and the Tops.
I'm trying to remember the name of it. It was one of those 60s bands where there was like one or two original guys in the band, like they would do incarnations of them.
Sure. Yeah.
And I did a comedy show. Kevin Nealon was the host. It was somewhere in Minneapolis. Yeah. And I had to share a shuttle ride to the airport with these guys, and they were all, like hungover from the night before. They were telling me a story about one of the guys, his wife came and picked him up from the airport, and he was so loaded that he didn't even realize that it was his wife.
Oh,
and
really?
He went to get out of the car, and as he got out of the car, he looked at her. She was still in the driver's seat, and he said, "Thanks for the ride, baby."
That reminds me, I had one of my Christmas parties. Ireland was here, and he was drinking those Mason mules, the bourbon and the ginger mule, or the ginger beer. And so at the end of the night, and he did well for the evening. And at the end of it, as he was leaving, he said to me, "Thanks for coming." I'm like, it's my house, man. It's my house. All right. The number one pop song of all time, according to Rolling Stone. What is number one on your list?
Yesterday.
Yesterday is not in the top 10 here. Yesterday is a great single. And is your list pop songs of all time? It is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because my number one is Whitney Houston, "I Want to Dance with Somebody," which is a quintessential pop record. Did that make the list of yours?
I don't even think it made the list here. "I Will Always Love You" is number 40.
"I Will Always Love You" is fantastic.
Oh, no. Yeah, it's not even on this list.
Yeah.
It didn't make the top 100.
Rolling Stone made a revision, and Whitney Houston, "I Want to Dance with Somebody" went from off the charts to number one pop song of all time. I just have such a good feeling about, and Whitney Houston, I never got to see live, never got to see in person, which is, so disappointing. But when this record came out, the thing I loved about it was the video, because she couldn't dance, and she tried so hard to dance. But that was just not her game. I remember being in El Salvador. Sentences you never thought you'd hear on the show. I remember being in El Salvador.
Were you reporting? Were you reporting from there?
Reporting live. No, we were at a yoga retreat in El Salvador, and there was a big fire, a bonfire on the beach. And everybody's like sort of hanging around, and I don't know, we were smoking or we were doing whatever. And there was a DJ over by the fire. And nobody really went over to the fire. Nobody went. And all of a sudden, the DJ puts on Whitney Houston, "I Want to Dance with Somebody." And it was like moths to a flame. Everybody went to that fire and immediately started dancing. It was so cool. It's such an infectious, poppy record that I absolutely love, deserves to be there. One record that did not make this list, and it would be in my top 10 for sure. It's a song written by Prince. And years ago, the record guy came to Toledo, Ohio, and played this record for me. He said, "I want you to hear this. Before you even think about adding it to your playlist, I want you to hear this." And he put on Sinead O'Connor, "Nothing Compares to You." And I'm like, are you kidding me? That is just a great, big, fat, stinking hit record with a hook you could drive a truck through. That is such a great record, and haunting.
It's great. It's number 16, actually, on my list.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah, and I don't know if you saw this, Pink and what's her name? Oh God, I'm blanking on her name. She's a country singer, Carly.
Carly Pink with her?
Yeah, Pink with her. They did a tribute to Sinead O'Connor, and they did a duet.
Oh, wow.
Of "Nothing Compares to You."
Yeah.
Did it come up? Did you see what I'm talking about?
Didn't.
No?
It's Chris and Carly, right?
It's Pink.
And it's the Carly I'm having trouble with.
Okay, wait. So it's a Pink duet
with Carly.
Nothing. I'm putting "Nothing Compares to You" because I may have the.
While you're doing that, the acoustic version of "Nothing Compares to You" by Chris Cornell.
Oh, Brandi Carlile.
Oh, I love Brandi Carlile.
Did it with Brandi Carlile, and if you've never seen it, it is haunting.
Yeah,
it's great.
It is a haunting song. I immediately, Brandi Carlile was playing at the Hollywood Bowl, I think 2 weeks ago. I love Brandi Carlile. Juan hates her. So there was a no
Really?
to go to the concert. Yeah.
How could you hate her?
I don't know. I think it's because her music is so sad and wailing. Does kind of, she's a little like Chris Isaac, I think, a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure people say that about Lucinda Williams, who I love, and a lot of people think that her songs are kind of, drolly, and but I don't know. Her voice is just insane. And
Yeah,
she's a great performer.
She is a great performer. All right, last thing here before we get to George and our conversation. I want to ask you, do you think, because this came up on the show the other day, do you think I am capable of coming up with a very tight 5-minute set? A very tight 5 minutes.
I do.
You do?
I do.
Because 5 is not a lot, but 5 is kind of...
5 is a lot.
Is it a lot?
When you're up there, 5 minutes is a lot.
So how long were your sets normally?
Well, it depended, I mean, if I was doing a set at the Improv, anywhere from 10 to 15 minutes. When I did Star Search, it was 2 minutes. And 2 minutes, can seem like a long time.
See, my concern about doing a tight 5, Sue, is that's not leaving room for all the laughing.
Oh boy. Hello, delusional. You're getting way ahead of the game here. You should talk to our upcoming guest about that.
Gotta build in some space for laughs.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. Well, you have to also you have to put in for pauses too.
That's true. True. All right. Well, our guest today would definitely be a good judge. He is a comedy legend who has worked with some of the biggest names in the history of show business. He produced television with Dinah Shore and Judy Garland, Jonathan Winters, Frank Sinatra, Liza Minnelli, on and on. He is the creator of the television hit Laugh-In, which became a sensation in the late 60s and early 70s and launched the careers of people like Lily Tomlin, Goldie Hawn, and more. Now he has got a brand new book. It's called Still Laughing, A Life in Comedy, and man, he's lived one. George Schlatter joins us. George, thank you so much for doing this, man. Honored to have you on the show.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
The book is so much fun, and there are so many stories, and you talk about so many people in the book, and just amazing stuff. I kind of want to start with you. Like, when you were a kid, did you dream of showbiz? Were you a funny kid? What was your childhood like?
How much time do you have? I was an outrageous child. I was impudent. I was busy. I was naughty. I was funny. I figured out when I was in grade school, if you could make people laugh, you could get by with anything, and that survived. And then it helped me survive my whole shady past.
Yeah, it seems like all of the amazing people that you worked with. I mean, the range from like Mae West
Yes.
to Judy Garland to Frank Sinatra to Robin Williams. It's just mind blowing to me that you worked with such iconic people for so many years. And I want to know, what was it about you that gave you this prolific career?
Well, I honestly believe luck had a lot to do with it. And I honestly believe my mother had a lot to do with it, who was a devout Christian Scientist and convinced herself and me that your mind can overcome anything. And then there was a lot of luck involved. And I married a great woman who also helped me survive. Because when you realize my career was a matter of survival, not only accidents and health things, but encounters with people. I mean, like Mae West, who's going to ever run into Mae West, But I booked her. She was working in Vegas, and I booked her to come in and play Ciro's, And my meeting with her was unbelievable. It was this tiny, tiny little woman, all in pink, came into this room. And I turned around, and there she was. And I said, I'm so glad to meet you. She says, I want to warn you, young man, don't fall for me. He said, because if you could catch it, you could never ride it. Now, are you ready for that kind of an introduction? So I think funny things happen to everybody. It's just that I recognize them as what they were. They were funny moments.
So you mentioned Ciro's, which was a world famous club. This is where Hollywood came to party. We'll say you were in guest relations. I know you don't like the term bouncer, so we'll call it guest relations.
I was an executive in charge of emergency departures. That's what Joe.
You go. I like that.
It sounded like bouncer, though, didn't it?
Yeah, it did a little bit. I was trying to describe it euphemistically. So what was Ciro's like? And is there anything that compares to it today?
I don't believe there is. Ciro's was, first of all, it was in Hollywood where the stars were focused, and it was the right size, and it was at a time when Hollywood was at its epitome, and so people went out, they got dressed, they went out for dinner, and they had relationships. They had more relationships than we know. And it was a very fortunate time, and Ciro's emerged as this center of Hollywood and relationships and so forth. And it was a fortunate place, and it was the size of Ciro's, the layout of Ciro's, where the entrance was in the foyer there, and how the people came in, and the place where photographers could be. It was just an ideal situation. A lot of it was luck, as you will see in my book. A lot of the book, is luck.
Yeah. Well, I've been working in TV for a long time. I actually met you many, many years ago. I did stand-up comedy for like 30 years. And you produced a show in the 80s. It was a stand-up special. And I was talking to a friend who Kathy Ladman. And I told her that I was going to be interviewing you today. And she said, I did a stand-up, I did stand-up show with George, many years ago. And I said, I did too. And I can't remember the name of the show, but it was great and fun.
Could be Speak Up America. It could be any one of a number of things. But the funny side, and also it shows there were only women. That was it too, So a lot of it was luck. And a lot of it was just desperation. When I sold a lot of shows because the network didn't have anything to put in there. When we did Laugh-In, NBC had nothing to put on opposite Lucy and Gunsmoke. And so they had no rating at all on Monday night at 8. So I said, well, I'll do a show of all unknown people and whatever. And they put it on reluctantly. They didn't like it at first. They said, this is not a show. This is an accident. I said, yeah. And we put it on despite their objections. They weren't going to air it. Because they said it's just too crazy and it's too everything. I said, we ran this for a grade school group of kids and they understood it. And if they understood it, you ought to be able to. And so, as with many things in the book, you will remember accident had a lot to do with my successes and and my relationships.
So
the thing with women, women were not really considered funny. Women were the butt of the joke. Men had a joke, then the woman had a joke, and then the man had the payoff. But we came in with a show devoting the entire thing to women and finding out that women not only were funny and beautiful and necessary, but they were brighter than men.
So you wound up at the last Frontier Hotel in Las Vegas, and you were booking acts, and
yes.
It's a very funny story. Your story about working with the future president of the United States, Ronald Reagan, and the chimps.
Yes. Well, Ronald Reagan wasn't president then. He was doing. He was acting. And Lou Wasserman, who was the head of NBC, who was like an emperor, right, called me up and he said, "Book Ronald Reagan into the Frontier Hotel." It wasn't the last Frontier, however. It was the Frontier Hotel. And so I said, "But Mr. Wasserman, he doesn't do anything." And Wasserman, only he could say, "That's not my problem." So now we put Ronald Reagan in with a group called the Jackson Five, whatever it was, 5 men. And we took the lead of that act and we put Ronald Reagan into that. And the act was not that good. You can imagine Ronald Reagan, nightclub act. And so I remembered that he had done a movie with a chimpanzee called Bedtime for Bonzo, right? And so there was an act called the Marquis Family. So I said, we'll put them as the opening act. And it was wonderful because they were very, very funny. And It was interesting because that act did, by contract, 30 minutes. And when we put together this show with Ronald Reagan's act and this act, the whole show ran too long. So they said, we'll cut some time out of Ronald Reagan. You couldn't touch that act. You could touch it. It was not that good, but anyhow. So cut some time out of the chimps. And the owner of the chimpanzee says, hello, mate. The contract said, the bleeding contract said that they do 30 minutes, not 29, not 31, 30 minutes. That's what they do every time. Huh? So we couldn't cut any time out of the chimps. So we did the first 15 minutes of the act in the hallway. And so then opened the doors and they went out. And that's the way we cut it, which worked out pretty well until in the middle of their act, they came to me and they said, Mr. Reagan has some friends coming, hold the show. I said, I'm talking to gorillas. You can't say hello. Take it from the top, mate. And so eventually we opened the doors and these 5 chimpanzees got loose in the saloon. And you can imagine 5 chimpanzees loose in the Frontier Hotel in Las Vegas. And they were in the lights. They were in the, and eventually we rounded them up. And they then decided that the chimps couldn't cut their act. So Mr. Reagan had to cut 15 minutes out of his act, for which he never forgave me. He never forgave me for booking him to a show with 5 gorillas either. I became very friendly with Nancy. She forgave me, but Ronald Reagan never really overlooked me. the gorillas.
So you created, I guess everybody would say, the most iconic variety show in television history, being Laugh-In.
Thank you.
I want you to tell us how that came about and how you were able to get away with what you got away with the network. Well,
As with everything else in my career, accident. NBC had nothing to put on opposite Gunsmoke and Lucy, which were number 1 and 2. They were getting no rating at all. So I said, well, I'll get a show that'll cost nothing, all unknown people. And so the network reluctantly said, okay. And so we went to these people, and they were young character people for which there was no place, and there was also no place really for women. Women were like Lucy stars, but to just have unknown women was unheard of. But NBC was desperate. So we put together this thing. And at first, when NBC saw it, they said they weren't going to air it. They said, this doesn't make sense. I said, right. they said, but it doesn't pay off. You say, we'll be right back. And you dip the blank, come right back. I said, we said we'd be right. And they said, that throws the audience off. I said, no, it doesn't. It makes the audience uncomfortable. So anyway, a number of accidents played a major role in my career. And that's how Laugh-In got on the air. And they weren't going to air it. They said it didn't make sense, but they had nothing else. So as with everything else in my long and suspicious career, accident played a large part.
So there's a story in the book about Lily Tomlin, and she had reached a point where she was very discouraged about why didn't people get her comedy? You got her. Why did you get her?
Well, she was leaving. She was not happy at all. And I had a meeting with her, and she came in, and she was not too sure that my political positions were in sync with her own philosophy. But anyhow, she came into the office and sat in my room and became 5 different people, 5 different voices and whatever, but all in the same costume. So I said, I want you to do the show. And she said, which character? I said, I want you to do all of them. How do you do that? I said, well, the way we're taping stop and go. And eventually on the first show, she did like 5 characters. And in front of your eyes, this woman became another person. And that was one of the most, Lily Tomlin, Goldie Hawn are 2 of my favorite accidents, but Lily came in and did the Ernestine, the telephone operator. And people were really afraid to get a call from Ernestine, right? And is this the party to whom I am speaking? She became, in front of your eyes, a different person, another with a different voice and a different character and whatever. And Lily Tomlin is one of my favorite accidents, but I just adored her. And she came on, her first character was Ernestine, and she called somebody. And right before she went on, I said, Lily, dial with this finger. She said, I said, just don't give him the finger, but just I will know what you're doing. So she dialed people, and she said, is this the party to whom I am speaking? And people were very nervous about getting a call from Ernestine. And Lily's own political philosophy never really entered into it, other than we did, I guess, tilt slightly to the left. But she was she was an adventure. She was a delightful accident. And then we just fell in love with her. And we would get her dressed up as different characters, and she'd come out and become different people, whether it was the little girl or the telephone operator or something. And Lily and Goldie. I was very, very lucky to find those women, Lily, Goldie, JoAnne, Ruth. It was just a delightful avalanche of accidents.
You know, you speak a lot about your dealings with network executives and
Yes.
and with some disdain, which I understand because I've produced TV, and you get egregious notes all the time. Now, I had heard this story, and
Yeah. Wait a minute. That's right. Don't call me. Go away. Okay, sorry.
There you go.
So I had heard this story years ago, and I want you to tell me whether it was true. I had heard that when Alan Seuss was on Laugh-In, the network thought that he was too gay,
Well,
and your note to him was, and they wanted him to tone it. They wanted you, or who I guess it was you. They told to tone him down, and you told him to amp it up. Is that
Yeah.
true?
well, Alan, I believe, was the first openly gay character on television, and we didn't say anything about that, but it was just his delivery, and he was outrageously funny, and he'd been in an act that I did in Vegas, which was a disaster, and they came out, and it was at the Frontier Hotel again, right? And we booked this act, and before I saw them, Edie Adams said, "I've got these guys, I want you to use them in the show." And so what do they do? She said, "Well, you have to see them." Well, eventually there was no way to see them because they weren't working anywhere I could go see them. So they opened in Vegas with an act saying, "Okay, give me the name of a town." And I went, "They're going to do an improvisational act in Vegas. You know, you could get shot for that." So anyhow, the owner of the hotel had somebody come over and tap me on the shoulder. They said, "Well, they're terrible." I said, I don't want them to be here tomorrow." They said, "No, you don't understand. We don't want them to finish the show tonight." So Alex was with this act. And the guards came in and took them off stage during their act, right? And he said, "But we're not finished. We're not finished." They said, "Yes, you are." But he was openly flamboyant. And we didn't do anything ever about him being gay. It was just the delivery. And he became a major, major part of our success. And what a delightful man. He was silly. And I was a little bit afraid of Alan Seuss because I would walk into the meetings and we were under a lot of pressure to deliver that show in the time and for the money. And so I would come in and the whole group would be there. We only had so many minutes to do this. And Alan would come. He'd say, "Well, aren't we in a shady mood today? Oh, Alan, stop it," right? And the whole cast looked forward to Alan Seuss destroying my dignity and my control, which I enjoyed. So Alan Seuss was one of my favorite accidents.
So apparently your Laugh-In hosts, Dan Rowan and Dick Barton, didn't necessarily see eye to eye. How did you manage that? Was the friction to the show's advantage, or was it a problem?
It was everything to the show was an advantage. Every problem we had, overcoming that problem was part of our success. Rowan and Martin did one of the funniest, the best nightclub acts in the existence. And NBC said they had to have a host. I said, "But the show we've designed doesn't have a host." They said, "We need a host." So I went to Rowan and Martin, who did a great stand-up act. Dan was straight and Dick was silly. And so they came in, they did the opening and the closing and a few other spots. And then the rest of the show kind of happened around them. They were almost traffic cops, and it did work. And it was and they did a great, great nightclub act. And they were not in the way of this tumult of young, irreverent, impudent character people. And so I am very, very grateful to Rowan and Martin for what they did. Whether or not they got along, I don't know. They, who knows? When two comics get along, it's a rare occurrence.
Yeah, you developed a very intimate relationship with Frank Sinatra, and I want to know what it was like to work with him, and also you became his friend. But what was it like on a professional level?
I could best describe that, I think, as life on the ledge, because Frank Sinatra was an event. He was not just a performer, not an actor, not a singer, not what, just that. He was an event. And my relationship with Sinatra really survived because I could make him laugh. And if you could make him laugh, you broke that coil. And so he was a singer, a dancer, an actor. He was all of those things. and he was an event, but he also was trouble. And most people were afraid of him. I was too young and too dumb to be afraid of him. So I realized I could make him laugh. And that was my relationship with Frank. And I cherished my moments with him. They were what a delightful, talented man, but dangerous. You had to be very careful. And when you make him laugh, you better be sure. He was, well, you've seen the shows. Every time you see Sinatra, it was almost a different adventure. He was not just a performer, he was an adventure. And I cherish my times with him.
So I love Judy Garland. For me, she's iconic. And me being a gay guy, standard issue, I love Judy Garland. And I think of her in such tragic terms, like watching the old TV specials. She seemed fragile. What was she really like, and what made her such an amazing performer?
She was about as fragile as a gorilla in the zoo. You know, she was tiny, but she was not fragile. And I had done the Dinah Shore show, which was very successful and very sweet and nice. And Dinah was lovely. But they announced that Judy Garland was going to do a show, and I wanted her to do her show. So I set up a meeting with her. And I wasn't expecting to meet her the way I did. It was at night in the office, and I was a mess. And I came in, and here's Judy Garland. And I didn't know what to say. So I said, Miss Garland, I don't care what you may have heard about me. There's no truth to the rumor that I'm difficult. And she said, you're difficult? I said, see, even you've heard about it. And she said, what? So she said, well, let's go. My first meeting with Judy lasted maybe 2 minutes. We went out. She said, let's go have a drink. And I found out if you could make Judy Garland laugh, you broke that coil. And I did terrible things to her to make her laugh. And I got by with it. That was the dangerous, you know. And you could make her laugh. You could get by with anything. It was like, with presidents and whatever.
Yeah, right.
I didn't mean to be as funny as we are now, but go ahead. Are you watching the news today?
Yes.
I wish I was on the air. Oh boy. Anyhow, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I wish you were on the air too.
Oh boy, would we be having fun, you know?
I think when I look at your career, and especially with the introduction of Laugh-In and then Real People, which I think, really set the table for what reality TV is, here today.
Thank you.
I want to know, is there anything on television today that you feel is iconic, inspirational? What do you watch?
Well, I watch a lot of news because I can't believe, news today is only about 5 degrees away from comedy. You know what I mean? When you watch the news this morning, you realize here's this group of people who have been elected to lead us, and they're like children in a playpen. I find that very funny. I miss the colors in Laugh. Everything today is in very dark colors and very intense and very angry and whatever. And I miss the joy of Laugh-In. I miss the colors, the multiple characters, and the brevity, because everything today, except for my own speech, is brief. And Laugh-In was staccato. And our attention span, I think, was shrunk because of Laugh-In. We got to it, did the joke, and then move on. So I miss the adventure. I miss the danger of Laugh-In. We have danger, and that's just in Congress. But the humor, the playpen, the adult playpen, I wish it existed today. That's what I talked about in the book. I said, they wanted me to write a book, and I do a joke. I said, I just finished my first book, and next year I'm going to read another one. But but the book, they wanted me to write a book, and so I sat down and I just talked into a tape recorder. Everything I remembered, I talked. And Martha Bowes, who works for me, a wonderful woman, typed up all of these wild notes. It was a big, thick book, and I included everything, including memories of my shady past, because there were moments in my past that I am not proud of, and I did not want to put in the book. So we put together all of this, and then a very, very funny writer, one of the funniest writers we know, John Max, sat down and extracted from her notes these stories, which are all true and which did happen, but it only reflects my own minimal attention span and my love of the outrage. Anything that happens outrageous, I love it, and that's what I focused on, and that's what the book is about. The book is about. It's like, I don't think it's like any other book, because it's just these brief moments, episodes, adventures, if you will, that, I don't know whether this is going to be a book or not. So the people liked it. And I'm amazed at the positive reaction, but I believe it's because we need something to make us feel good. We need something to make us happy. We need something to make us laugh. We need bright colors and bright people and funny things. And that's what we were able to capture in the book. And I think that's the reason why it's been so successful.
You did a special in 1989 called The Ultimate Event.
Yes.
Liza Minnelli, Frank Sinatra, Sammy Davis Jr. A couple of questions about this. Those are gigantic stars.
Yes.
Are stars as big and rare now as they were during that era and during the golden days of show business?
I don't believe they are because it's too spread out. At that point, you had 3 networks and you had different record companies and so forth. So it was not as spread out as it is now. Now there's an avalanche of stars and they're all wearing dark clothes and nobody's happy. I see late night shows and everybody's yelling, and except me, everybody's yelling and everybody's got an angry approach. There should be room for joy, and that's what I hope to capture in the book. I didn't deal with any of my Vegas life, which was, some of it was, questionable a bit, but we avoided any of that. And
everybody's life is a little questionable in Vegas, isn't it?
Yes, questionable. Sometimes short.
Yes.
But I was in Vegas at a time when it was run by like 5 or 6 hotels, each one from a different city. And so we knew them all, and it was run very tightly controlled. Everything you hear about Vegas happened, but not just to one place or one guy. It happened broadly. But today I don't see bright colors. I don't see happy people. I don't see funny that capture the brevity of today, which I have avoided in this interview. But we need something to make us feel good. We need something. Laughter is the second best feeling we can have, We won't go into the first, but go ahead.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. I got one last thing for you. So at some point you left or ABC lured you away. You went to create a show that was a competitor for Laugh-In. And in the book, you say it got canceled like in the middle of the first episode. How did all that go down?
Well, NBC Laugh-In was huge. And so they wanted to do another show. And I said, well, I've got another show, but Laugh-In hit because it broke all of the rules. I've got another show that'll break even more rules. So I came up with this idea of a show that captured the moment. And they're using the new technology, Moog synthesizer and sound effects, and didn't have an audience. It was just, and I sold this show. And then what happened was the commitment was for 13 shows. Eventually they saw the pilot and they upped it to 19 shows. And everybody raved, and it got major network sponsors. And so we put the show on the air, which was a staccato barrage of funny things, bits and pieces. And everybody loved the show, and it went on the air. And a guy in Cleveland was upset that they had canceled Peyton Place to put on Turn On. And so he called all of the stations. So as the show came across the country, it was being canceled one station at a time. By this big major hit in New York, by the time it got to California, it had been canceled. And the part of the agreement with the network was that to get the money they owed me, I would promise never to air the show. So the show was locked up for many, many years until some scoundrel found these tapes in an archive someplace and put 2 of them out on the air. And people said, wow, this is funny. What happened? And so now the show is now coming out. And I don't know whether they're going to sue me or what, but it was an adventure then. It may not appear quite as outrageous now as it was then, but this idea of the staccato use of music, sound effects, and bright colors, and all of this high energy approach to current events. And so now the show is they've got 2 or 3 of them. There's 8 of them we did. That's how confident we were in the success. And I've got a stack of 8 scripts written for Turn On. And the show got canceled after 20 minutes. And fortunately now, because of these scoundrels who found those tapes, it's now going to be running someplace. And I realize when you look at it now, you say, well, what was all the problem? You see, there were problems. There were things that are even outrageous today. I'm still proud of that show. I'm as proud of some of my failures as I am of my successes. Turn On is one of my proudest moments.
So they just like cut the show off while it was airing?
Yeah.
Is that what happened? I mean, that's like so outrageous to me. I've never heard of that.
Well, at that point, this guy in Cleveland, which was a major outlet for shows, wanted to keep Peyton Place. So he called everybody. We said, we can't allow this to happen. Nobody had seen it. So they went, they went on the air and they said, the remainder of this program will not be seen this evening or ever. And they canceled it midway through the show and ran a test pattern. And I was in shock because we had a big opening night party at the Bistro in California celebrating this enormous hit that was about to happen. And it was off the air. And I'm as proud of Turn On as I am of any other show because it was against great. First of all, it was an adventure to put the show on the air at all, using all the modern technology. And it wasn't an orchestra. It had the Moog synthesizer and it had jump cuts. And a wonderful woman by the name of Carolyn Raskin developed the editing techniques that are now commonplace. And it went on the air, and I was really proud of it. And then, boom. So, but it's
boom,
now,
just like that.
I understand now people are getting a chance to look at it and saying, what was the problem? But today, you can still look at the show and realize there were problems. But I was delighted with it.
So after this conversation, George, I've got a goal. It's to be as sharp as you are. You are. Do I have it right? Are you 93?
Easy now. Easy. Easy. We try to avoid a chronology.
Oh, got it.
That's right.
But how have you remained? I mean, you wrote this book and you're so sharp and you're such a great storyteller. And honestly, I think you do all that stuff better than I do right now.
Well, I don't think so. You're on the air and I'm not. You like that? I'll tell you, your career is just beginning. Mine, as far as we know, but you know, I think probably the reason for my longevity and my sex is because I married a wonderful woman, and she didn't want to marry me. She was a dancer, and she said she wasn't going to marry me because of my connection and because of what I was working in Vegas with a group of strange people. And she said, I'd be dead before I was 30. So I said, well, you don't have to be with those people. She said, you'll never lose them. Well, I did. And JoAnne Brand, who was a dancer, she was the leading lady on Zorro. And she was did many shows with Ernie Kovacs. And because of JoAnne has guided my career, my health, my philosophy, and my vocabulary. And that's one of the main reasons for my success. It's not a joke. It's not just something I'm saying to make her feel good. It is true. She's given me 2 wonderful children, and she's survived a very bumpy career because I've been in and out of more situations than most people even dream of. And as you pointed out, an unkind mention of my senility, which is, I mean, this creepy senility, you know. I mean, I have body parts that are about to fail at any moment, but I'm still having a good time. So,
well, you look great. You sound great. The book is great.
And I want to ask you one last question.
What?
You know, I did stand up for a long time. I don't do it anymore, but I still write jokes. I still write and think like a stand up, and I always will.
Great.
Do you still come up with ideas for shows now? Does that come into your head?
Oh,
like
yeah.
if you were doing TV today, like what would you do? What would you be doing?
Well, first of all, I'd be having a big fight with the networks because when I did those shows that were revolutionary at the time, I had to deal with one network at a time and one president at a time. Now there's a huge, I mean, to sell a show today, you have to do it to 10 people and they don't agree. So I never would have the freedom that I was fortunate to encounter then. Because it was everything we did that worked, including Laugh-In and Real People and Speak Up America, and all of those shows were an adventure. They were risky. They were dangerous. And that danger kind of excited the audience. They knew they were looking at something that was on the edge. I miss colors. I mean, bright colors. Your set is brightly colored. But when you look at late night television, everything is dark. Why? It's easier to light, but there's no joy. And the people are yelling like me. But the people, there's people out there that grew up on Laugh-In and Speak Up America and all of those shows who are waiting for a window. And I just hope somebody would come on and say, hold it, get out of the way, here we go. And when they do that, you're going to see an explosion because there's a lot to make fun of today. Just watch the hearings.
Yeah, right.
You know.
George, it is so great to get a chance to talk to you. You have had an amazing career so far.
And it's not over.
It's not over. Exactly. The book is called Still Laughing, A Life in Comedy. It is so much fun to talk to you.
This captured many of the accidents that I'm telling you about now. And it was reluctant. It was not an easy sell because they wanted another tell-all book about my associations and people. So I said, no, what I remember about my career were things that happened funny, accidents or whatever. So that's what all is in Still Laughing. And I'm surprised that it's doing as well because people actually read it.
It's so much fun to read.
It's great. It's a really great book.
Yeah.
Thank you.
George, thank you so much for coming on, man. We really appreciate you.
This was great fun. And if you don't get canceled because of this interview, who knows? We may do it again. So
we'll do it again. I promise you.
That's a deal.
To see you. Thank you. You're adorable, my dear.
There you have it, George Schlatter. I have got about a quarter as many good stories as George has. He is, what an amazing life and an amazing career.
I just can't believe how sharp he is.
Yeah, I know.
It's just, I tell stories and I'm like, what's the name of that? Like, who's
correct? We did that during the opening of the show.
He didn't stumble for 1 second. He recalled everything.
Yes.
And just that that he's on top of everything just because he was getting into a little politics stuff, but that he doesn't miss a beat still.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I would not be surprised to see him produce something else, sell another show at the age of 93. All right, so George, fantastic book. Life and great book. Strongly recommend. I want to make sure everybody knows if you're watching the show on YouTube, you should subscribe to this channel. If you're listening on Apple and Spotify, you should leave us a 5-star review, subscribe, and write a positive comment. And all that stuff helps us with the algorithm, allows more people to find out about the show. So we appreciate you very much. Don't forget, after you do that, after you leave a comment, after you leave a rating, after you leave a review, that is, by the way, Scott Kaplan's girlfriend on the radio. We call her Rachel. So that's where review came from. I'm leaving that in. I don't care.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, we don't do no stinking editing.
Exactly. So send us an email, maseandsue@gmail.com. We've got very cool Culture Pop Podcast t-shirts. We appreciate you being out there all the time. Sue, thank you very much. I appreciate it. And we will see everybody next time on the Culture Pop Podcast.